Our Highline Voices, 106.5 KQWZ LPFM.
Connecting Highline and our region.
History, cultural heritage, art, performances, contemporary pop culture.
We collect, preserve, and tell the stories of the Highline region and its people.
We want to embrace our differences and similarities.
We want to extend our mission outside the walls of the museum. Our Highline Voices, 106.5 KQWZ LPFM.
Hi, everyone. This is Nancy from the Highland Heritage Museum, and welcome back. Today, as always, we got an amazing person, and I'm really excited to introduce you to him and for him to share his story. But before we start, once again, why are we doing this project? Honestly, just to get to know each other, to get to know friends or neighbors, to connect with each other. And, it could be through this way, it could be in person, but at the end of the day, it's about our need to connect with people and connect our own history and stories and see beyond the surface, go a little deeper into that area. And knowing that, believe it or not, we got way more things in common than differences. And so we love this project for many reasons. And we're excited again that you're here joining us. Gevin, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to do this interview with you.
Privileged to be here.
Oh, I am excited. And so, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. So, Gevin, who are you?
Well, I am Gevin Booth. I am originally from a small town in Iowa, came out to Seattle in the summer of '88. And about 2 weeks after I was here, I decided that this is where I want to live. So from about 92 to now, I've been in the Northwest. And so it feels like home because I've been here longer than I was growing up in Iowa. I've lived all over a lot of different places around the Seattle area. For the last about 6 years, I've been here in Burien, which I absolutely love. I live in the Top Hat area. Before that, I was in South Park for many years. So definitely enjoy the South Side, and I have friends all over. And like I said, I've lived everywhere, but this feels like home now. And I am a independent artist, filmmaker, writer, musician. I am fascinated by artistic expression. I am not formally trained. I've been doing my art since I was 5. When I went to college, I was going to be an art major, and I took a few art classes, and I was a stubborn 18-year-old and said, I already know how to do this. And it was just not exciting. So I had a English literature professor named Jerry Denuncio, who was amazingly inspiring. And I realized that I wasn't even really a reader at that time. And I realized that diving into the symbolism in good literature, he really broadened my brain on how to approach creative work. And so I changed my major to English literature after that first year, and that's what I graduated with. And when I graduated from college, I realized that I had no idea what type of work I was going for. I just loved literature and I loved the study, but I never was thinking practically. So I've had a very creatively disruptive professional path because I've done a lot of searching. I've done a lot of different things. I've worked for reality television. I worked for 4.5 years at a law firm as a senior paralegal on a nuclear remediation case. I've just had a lot of different experiences. But when we won the case, we had a case in Idaho, and it was a 9-month trial, and we won. And the attorneys at the firm offered me a full-time job working on multiple cases, and I'd have my office and everything. And one of the attorneys said, you've probably got some money in the bank now, and the partners wouldn't be happy if they heard me say this, but I don't know if you should take this job. All you talk about is your love of film, and I know you're an artist. Maybe this is an opportunity for you. And I was making really good money. Right now, I am in debt and I'm really struggling financially. And I only say that because it was I guess if I give my credit, it was a courageous decision because I could have had the stability of continuing at the law firm. And I was good at it, but it wasn't feeding my creative soul. So I literally left and said, "Oh, I want to make movies and figure out what the different roles on a set are and where I might fit in." And so I just started volunteering as a production assistant because I also hadn't had any film school. But at that time, and what I determined is for me, that was the best way to learn the craft. And that's when I started at the law firm. I'd never worked at a law firm. I started out as a document clerk and quickly was promoted. And that's the same thing with film and art, is that I just started doing the craft. After I had volunteered for 3 films, I was asked to be the producer for a film, and I realized that I was using some of the skills that I had been using at the law firm. What I have that I think is unique is I have these sort of fastidious organizational skills, and I'm also sort of a crazy artist. And usually it's one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do bring something unique that I've done a lot of producing in films. I just produced a feature film this summer, but I'm mostly, when I'm working in film, I am a production designer or an art director or a prop master or an on-set dresser. I just was the production designer for a short film last week. So that's what really feeds my soul. I've been doing it now. I left the law firm 20 years ago. So I've really been a freelancer. I've had some long-term jobs. I was a producer at a company for a few years. Like I said, I worked for a reality television show as the post-production supervisor for a few years. But my heart is really in what is therapeutic to me about the creation of art. I've always had to create art, and for many years I never even considered monetizing it. And it's just recently that I'm starting to share my art and sell my art. And it's not for everyone. I have a very unique style. I do this very fine line design drawings, and I do these one line where it's just one continuous line, and then I color it in. But now I've realized when I go through all my boxes of all my canvases from over the years that I have a small body of work, and it's now exciting for me to bring them out of the closets. And, I do my art because I can't help myself, but part of the value in art is letting other eyes experience it, because everyone has a unique take on any piece of art, and it's so subjective. But if it touches someone, it can be a gift. And that's how I feel when I find a piece of art that talks to me. It's a communication with the artist and then your own brain filling in those gaps on what the meaning might be, and anything that takes you out of your normal day-to-day life and makes you question, or, I never thought of it that way. I mean, when I think of art, whether it's visual art or film, that's my favorite part of it, is that it takes you to another world where you can discover something about yourself.
Yeah. No, I love everything you're saying. I love the courage they took for you to change paths and for you to acknowledge what truly means something to your soul, because you can continue working in things that, yeah, it gives you stability. Yes, it gives you things, but are you willing to pay the price of you not living fully, and you're not living with intention, or you not living with heart? And so, what's the price that you're willing to pay? And I think that is, you honoring that, you honoring yourself, you honoring what feels good in the quality of life. What is it to mean with purpose? And so I love that. When I met you, it was with this really weird experience of creating this exhibit. And we can talk a little bit more about that later if you want. But it is the first time where I'm able to truly just get to know you a little bit deeper. I think that in the last meeting, that's when I started to really get to see you and know you more in a personal level. And then, today too. But this it is a joy to hear you say that, yes, that you had to have courage to follow the what is it that makes most sense to you. And it's inspirational. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Well, I appreciate hearing that because, I think when I can step outside of myself, I can give myself credit for that courage. But it's also been challenging because it has been a financial struggle when you take that artistic path. Some people can forge their way, and especially with filmmaking, you might get commercial work that helps you pay the bills, but you're literally when you're in freelance, you're constantly searching for what's next. And so there is also a sense of the unknown, and it's always a struggle. And so for me, I don't regret leaving the law firm at all, but it's a sacrifice making this decision. And so I think I don't question the decision, but I definitely wish that more stability came with it. And so it's a comfortable path because it is what I enjoy doing. And if I can share it with people, that's a blessing. But it's also a struggle.
Yeah.
And, that's how it works.
So art. So you mentioned art and filmmaking. Right now you're doing, for me, it's all of it is the same, art and filmmaking.
Yes.
But I know that it's an expression of yourself. What is it that you like about filmmaking? What is the magic sweet spot of it?
It's funny because I think there's two things I enjoy. There's a part of me that's a social animal, and I like to be in groups. And then there's a part of me that likes to hide out. And when I'm doing my canvas work or pen and ink or sculpture or whatever I do, it is a solitary experience. I'm by myself. I can do whatever I want, whatever pace. I can take a break. I can go outside. No one's bothering me. And that's a pretty special place to be in, especially when it's flowing. What I really appreciate about filmmaking is that it is a true collaborative art. And because I didn't have film school, and I just had a lot of people, if they get into filmmaking, there's one track that they're on. Like they want to be a director of photography, so they know everything about cameras and that's their focus, or they want to be a gaffer and be all about the lighting. Since I didn't really know what I wanted to do, I kind of worked in every department.
Wow.
And it gives me such a great overview of the entire process of filmmaking. I understand the concerns of all departments. It's one of the reasons I can be I think, an effective producer, because I know all the different facets. And so, for instance, if I'm working as a production designer, what's fun to me is that the collaborative part of it, I look at a script that someone else has written. So first of all, I need to buy in. Is this something I want to spend my time with? And then my job is everything that's written on the page that you'll see as an audience, I have to create. I have to build it. I have to set up a set. I have to bring in the furniture, the colors. But it's a collaborative process because I'm talking with the director. Like, what is it? Is this postmodern? Does this color scheme work? And it's this constant conversation. And even when you get up to shooting, once I see something in camera and I see it on the monitor, I might notice, oh, there's an empty space there. I should put something on the wall. So it's very organic. And once you're realizing that, if I build a room, it still needs to be lit by that department. And it still needs, the whatever the costumes are can't clash with the background. And so all those different departments coming together to make this single vision it's really magical. And especially if you have a solid crew that enjoys working with each other and collaborate well. Sometimes there's battles on film set. People have different ideas. But when you have open-minded people and you can really trust who you're working with, I'm fortunate enough that I get to work sometimes with the same people, and you kind of have your group that you just implicitly trust. And then it's easier to shift gears. Sometimes it's like, oh, we ran out of money. We can't do that big spaceship that we wanted. And so then I get to run in and say, well, what if we tried this?
Mm-hmm.
And to think outside of the box, it really is creative problem solving, especially if it's a low budget. So it's so magical to me that I can do both, that I can do these group artwork where it's not just my voice, but my voice is necessary. And then I can just do my own separate art that might touch people in different ways. And at the end of the day, whether it's your visual art or filmmaking, you're telling a story that you hope resonates. I mean, even a single picture tells a story, and you're hoping it resonates with someone else, or it's just almost like mental masturbation. I mean, if I'm just doing my art and hiding it in a closet, I mean, that might be valuable for me, but the idea of art is that it's a vision that can inspire or make people question, or even if they don't like it, they have to process, why don't I like that? It's like there is a reaction to art, especially if it's controversial, or if it's some themes that people might be uncomfortable with thinking about. It's a way to connect. The value of art for me is very important. I mean, it can be political. I might not march on the streets, but I might have a painting that says what I want to say, and that sign I would be holding. Like, there's different ways that we can be civically minded and try to show maybe a better way, or I guess that's a little presumptuous to think that you're showing a better way, but you do. For me, it's the connection. Like, when someone connects with a piece of my art, it brings them joy, because there's a reason that they want that in their house on display. They've created their own story about what it means, and that's impact. It's important to me, because it's the same thing with an audience for a film. You make this film, and if you wrote it and you edit it and you're like, that's exactly what I wanted to say. If you interview the 100 people walking out of the theater, they'll all have a different description of what they just saw.
Yeah.
And that's magical too, that you can have a through line. You can say, well, this is a story about redemption, and there's a hero and there's a protagonist, and they fight this thing. But everyone's personal experience is brought into the audience. And that's fun for me too, because it's like even the visual is like a collaborative experience.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same with me when I see a piece of art that affects me. It really does. It's like I'm processing what's inside of myself, and why does that touch me, and what was the artist's intent, and just to even make you stop from your normal day to day. I mean, novel life to me is exciting when something that happens outside my comfort zone, and when something novel hits me, and that can be art. It can be a tree and the leaves are falling, whatever it is that touches you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, this is
And I
fascinating.
ramble and talk a lot.
No, this is you. This is authentically you. That's the reason why we do this project, is for everyone to see you and be, be organically you, and be okay with it. And it's almost like a sign of empowerment. This is me. Take it or leave it. This
like
is
it.
me.
I like
As you describing the process of filmmaking and what it takes to have a script in front of you, and then do your own interpretation, and then somehow combine it with all the people's creative minds to bring that alive, is actually pretty incredible. Because not everyone will see the same color. Not everyone will see the same
That's
angle.
exactly
Not
it.
everyone sees the same interpretation. We use that term interpretation here at the museum, in the museum field. And, are you, it's a paragraph. What is the message you're trying to say with that paragraph? And everyone will have different interpretations of what that means.
Right.
And so, like, for me, to have a team, to have that cohesive message, yes, we united into this and we're on the same page is, I wish it would be like that in real life with everything in general.
Right. Right. I mean, it's part of when you think about like a film, I can read an amazing script and say, oh, I want to see that story told. And then you imagine just even starting with like casting for that film. If you cast the wrong human to do that character, all of a sudden it's a different film.
Yeah.
It might ruin it. And so you realize every single part, if the costumes don't look real, it takes you out of it. If you're watching a film and like the sound drops out, all of a sudden you are not paying attention to the story anymore. So it really is truly that collaborative. It's like everyone on a film has to make compromises because you're really serving the director's vision. But as long as you can negotiate and come up with a compromise that doesn't, water down what the story is. And like, you never want to compromise the story. You're always fighting with a budget. So the director's always saying, I want an airplane that flies and crashes on the ground. And you go, well, we don't have money to do that, but I can do the aftermath and I can build plane part, and as long as, well, that's the element I wanted to tell in the story. Yes, I would have preferred to see the big explosion in the sky. Don't have the money, but guess what? I can have smoke on the ground. I mean, that's the way to still honor the story. And it really is all the different people. I just think about the show I just was production design on. I mean, there's 25 people and they've all got their jobs. And if you didn't have all of them, you probably couldn't make your days. And how magical is that? Because you're all serving the same vision, but like you said, everyone sees colors differently and you're all bringing your different sensibilities. And that's also part of what the producer does. The producer really does everything for a film. And so they're making sure that you have those components. You have one squeaky wheel on a set and it'll just screw the whole thing. You want to make sure everyone's on the same page. You're fighting for the same vision. And yes, everyone has a different perspective. And at the end of the day, you literally have a product that everyone put their fingers into, but it's not just one solitary person. And if the director can walk away going like, that is the vision that I wanted to share, it can't be what was envisioned until you make it. You don't know what it's going to be, but that's magical.
It is magical. Yeah. And I'm going to challenge you. I want to talk a little bit more about you. Right now, we got 20 minutes. I want to challenge you to something. What happens if we are using the same development process and creative process as making a film, applying to your own life? Meaning, like, you have the script, and you're the one who decides what colors, what furniture. You're the one to decide what sounds, what parts. You don't have enough money, but how can you make it? So you tell that story.
No, this is it's funny that you asked that because I don't know if I've really shared this with too many people, but one of the things I do if I'm producing a project is I do often have like a big board where I'm putting like, okay, we have to get permits and locations, and I'm really plotting it out like or if I was a production coordinator, especially, which I've done a lot of. And so it's just interesting that you asked that question because during COVID, I had a couple experiences. One is I was working at the time, and when COVID hit, I figured like everyone that, oh yeah, I probably won't work for 3 or 4 months. I didn't know it was going to last for a couple of years. So at the time I had some money in the bank, and then I had to leave my job just like the rest of the country. And for me, it was the most liberating time because I had money in the bank and now I had time. And so 12 hours a day, I was just doing art. I mean, I used my phone to do a claymation film about COVID, and just because I had time and it was so inspiring. But after a while, my money started, I started spending my money and I was like, okay, what's next? Because they literally shut down the film industry for a while because of
Yeah.
COVID. We couldn't be on sets. So I went to the dollar store and I grabbed like these big long foam boards and I glued them together and then I put it up on an easel and I started production designing my life.
Wow.
But it wasn't very successful. I mean, it ended up being aggravating. I mean, really, I was just putting all the like, what do you enjoy doing? What would you maybe consider doing for work? You know, and all the different things. And plotted it out. But oh, you could start here, you could start that, and I had it on like little tacks so I could move stuff around. And I literally had a board as if I was producing my life. What I learned from that is that I'm much better with doing the research than the follow through, in the sense that looking at this board, instead of being a liberating thing, it turned into like a daunting thing because I saw so many different ways I could journey, but I had the hard time choosing and this is still a problem with me today. I generally have 10 things I'm really interested in that I want to do. And instead of choosing one of them and passionately getting into it, I end up choosing 0 of them. Like I can often say, for instance, I told you earlier that I was a disc jockey and I had my own radio show for 5 years. And when I worked for reality television, sometimes they'd have me do the narration for their pilots or something. So I know that it would be fun to do voiceover work. Okay. But it's like, just because you can speak and read effectively doesn't mean that people are going to knock on your door and offer you voiceover work. You probably need to take some classes. You need to figure it. So I would often talk myself out of even going down that path.
I
So
can see it.
it's a struggle that I have today. Like I never stop working on my art, but as far as like, I don't have a website for my art. I don't like, as I said earlier, I've always just had to do it. And to now take it to the next level, that's kind of the place that I'm at now. I had a art show at the Grand Central Bakery this year, and I've had an art show at another cafe, and it's just kind of the first time that I'm saying, okay, is there something I can do with this that I haven't taken the time and effort to do? And it's the same with film. I don't have a website for my film work. People just hear about me, or it's a lot of word of mouth. And so I think that's the irony for me, is that I often do the things that I think are getting me teed up, and then I end up getting aggravated because it doesn't get me closer to where I want to be, which is also a question of where is that? Like I mean, really, after I had my medical issues, I realized that I often lived life that the grass is greener. Like I knew my ethics, I knew how hard I work, I knew how successful I'd been at different jobs. And so I had confidence in my abilities, but I was like, oh, I just haven't found my calling yet. And there's got to be one day I'm going to wake up and go, oh, I should do this. And I think I realized that I was looking at the grass is always greener. And I think what I realized is that I'm already on the grass. And I have to remind myself of that, because I know implicitly that there's not a place that you land in life where, oh, now everything's great and everything's wonderful. And we have to acknowledge that life is kind of a roller coaster emotionally and everything else. But if you stop thinking that, oh, one day I'm going to figure out my calling and it's just going to be clear and all I have to do is pursue that, that's a little helpful, because then I just keep doing what I'm doing, and you hope that there's a point that I don't have the financial burdens that I'm dealing with now, because that affects your
decisions and
it affects all your decisions, And so that's weird, because as an artist, you do have to struggle with, is this just ridiculous? Like I'm not a trained artist. I'm not, the negative voice also talks you down. And part of the challenge is being comfortable with knowing that, for instance, your art's not going to touch everyone. Not everyone's going to like it. I mean, that's the same thing with films, with music, whatever it is. But for me, for instance, if success for me in film would be like, oh, there's 100 people that like my stuff. I don't being famous or getting accolades. That's not as important as trying to touch people with what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I think the more that I can understand that, it's like, okay, I'm not, I'm just at a sort of a lost point now because I am in financial distress right now for a lot of different reasons. I had a car accident and I have all sorts of things. I could go down the list of negatives, but I don't want to because this is a positive thing. But that's always part of the equation too, because what happens is you have to get obviously work to pay your bills, and then that sometimes takes you out of the creative game. So trying to find that balance where you can actually make a living doing what you do so that I can be comfortable with the choice to, for instance, leave financial stability and a really nice job to pursue my art, that I can be really happy with that decision instead of kind of always questioning like, but I can't pay my rent. So did I make the right choice? Well, the truth of the matter is I always can pay my rent, I mean, in the sense of the next opportunity does come. And as long as you're connecting with people and you're sharing and you're not just hiding out and expecting people to knock on your door with opportunities, I mean, you do have to do the work.
Mhm.
And so that's what I'm doing now. I'm trying to do the work. I just did art. I was at an art sale for the Film Union, IATSE, last week, and sold some of my work, which is just wonderful. You're talking to the public, people have questions, they like to know your process. And I love that too. It's just really interacting, whether I sell or not. And then coming up on December 15th, I am going to be selling my art at the Washington Creatives Bake Sale. And it is Sunday, December 15th from 12 to 5 at the M5 Creative Building. This is a new place for creatives to gather and work. It's 401 Mercer Street in Seattle. And there is a new nonprofit that is coming to town that I'm very excited about. And it's been developed by Kirk Nordenstrom, who is the producer for the 48-hour filmmaking challenge. He's been doing it, I think, 20 years now. And he's one of my dearest friends. And he dedicates his life to supporting future filmmakers, future creatives. And so he's starting a nonprofit called Create 48. And it's basically, there's going to be a lot of services that it offers, but mostly it's to try to mentor the next generation. If you wanted to get into the creative field in Seattle, those tools will be offered. And that's who's throwing this sale too, because both Kirk and I are at the age that we want to give back too. When I started in filmmaking, that I told you here, I had absolutely no experience. I had no one to call. I just figured it out. I just Googled, I asked questions, and I rose to the challenge. But if you were young and interested in this field and the landscape of the Seattle area and where people get work and how you learn to be a cameraman or camera woman, how you learn to light something, the idea will be this will be some classes, mentorship programs. And that's exciting to me because it's an organization that I wish would have been here when I was starting out,
Yeah.
So there's always opportunities to share and support the next generation. I'm not over. I'm still doing it. I'm still doing it. I'm still looking for that next gig. I'm still consulting with people about their films that are upcoming and giving them advice. And I love to do that. I love to go out to coffee with new filmmakers and give them my advice. And I always start it with, the thing you'll know about me is I'm always direct and candid, but you don't have to listen to a word I say. I've learned some wisdom over 20 years, and I will be very bold and say, well, this is why I don't think that character works, or this is why, but you don't have to listen to me, because that's the great thing about art is that, and it's the same thing with me when people give me advice. Sometimes the lightning bolt hits me and I go, oh my God, that's exactly what I needed to hear. I'm going to approach it differently. And sometimes I go, no, I already thought of that. I'm going to put
Yeah.
that to the side. But that sort of knowledge is valuable.
Yeah, I think that we see on one angle, one perspective, and having other people kind of inject their own ways of how they're looking at things is always useful.
Absolutely.
And what is great is that it serves you to serve even bigger audience when you allow yourself to be open to listen to the other different advices that you may get.
Absolutely.
And so we got 7 minutes, so we got a few more minutes to go through. I think you kind of got it from when we started to talk earlier today. I'm inspired today. I'm inspired to challenge. I'm inspired to go with it. Just push, just go through it. And then you were saying you were talking about, you're still trying to wake up and find that calling. I think you already have that calling. This whole time, you're talking about your art, you're talking about filmmaking, you're talking about what makes you alive. I think that I don't know, I see you and I hear you, and I can sense that this is something you're really passionate about. And so I think you already found it. So it's not like you're gonna wake up and find something new. I think
It's good to hear that.
and so for me, that's the way I see it. We have different interpretations, but also the other element of it is that life, if everything was granted to us the way we wanted to, would be very boring.
I 100% agree.
And I think that I would like this to be a way of, get the adrenaline going, let the muscles moving, and like, you know what? I am for the challenge. I am for the challenge, not out there, but with myself.
Right.
To say I'm already in the green grass. I have control over the script. I have control over the production. It takes maybe in 10 years, 5 years, 20 years, but today.
Right.
And have the control to have the break and put it in the wall. And then just maybe in a few months, you see the progress that you make out of just making one break at a time.
Right.
And
you also have the power to determine how you respond to the world. And by that, I mean that I really have, and you as well, I've had a challenging couple years. And so it does seem like every time I start lifting up, something hits me and punches me in the gut. And that's true. I mean, I have had a lot of negative things happen to me this last year, but the point is, it is how you react. And it's also knowing that life is change, and that you're going to have setbacks that you end up overcoming, and that setback ends up being a gift. And it's hard when you're in it to understand that. But I mean, that's one of the things, my journey from my medical thing and all the work it took to get back to where I'm at now, it's like, it's hard for me to give myself credit for that because I just don't give myself enough credit. But it's a powerful journey, because you don't just sit there and go, oh, someone's going to take care of me. It's like, no, you have to do the work, whether it's for paying your bills or whether it's for finding happiness. And I think I get down when I'm not doing the work. It's kind of like, I always feel like I know the playbook. It's like, eat right, exercise, so when you know that and you're not doing them, then you have a guilt spiral and all that stuff. I'm a sensitive artist. And so, I'm also like in my 1-bedroom apartment. And so if I'm not interacting with humans, my negative brain can spin away. Oh, you're worthless. You're wasting your time. What are you thinking? And it's a constant battle for me to overcome that, because if I step outside of that destructive inner voice and I look at what I create and the beauty of that and the joy it brings me, then I can shut that voice up a little bit. Sometimes I have too much time for that voice to take over. So for me, it's a constant trying to find coping mechanisms for the disappointments in life and the regrets and the stuff that doesn't help you move forward, to get over the regrets and to get over the worries about the future. One of the best advice that I got was from a director of photography. I was doing some recreations for a television show about people that were escaping a cult. And at the time, this was about 10 years ago, I was thinking about starting a small production company. And I had some friends and we were talking about it, but there were already a lot of production companies. And once again, I sort of talked myself of the ways that, oh, this might not be worth it. And I think that it's fine that I didn't start that because it would have been difficult. But I remember we went out on one of the days that we shot, and I was telling him sort of, yeah, this is what I'm thinking about doing, but these are my fears about doing it. This is why I'm thinking about it. And I remember he said, yeah, but you're looking at this wrong. He goes, the courage comes afterwards. And it just took me a little while, and then it hit me. He was more like, if your passion is to do this thing, of course you're going to be scared that you're going to fail, or you're scared that you can't rise up to it. But like, if you let those fears intrude, you're never even going to do it. If you just do it, then you're going to get on the other side, and that's your courage. You're like, oh, I did that thing. It might not be the most brilliant piece of art or the most brilliant film ever, but you're never going to create unless you overcome those fears and push through, which is what you're saying. And so that's where I'm at now. I mean, even just when I leave here, I'm literally printing up like Christmas cards that are weird, my humor, to sell at this sale. And it's like, oh, I'm doing that. It's like, it's difficult at times because there's so much negativity sometimes in the head. And, I suffer from depression as well. And I like to say that out loud because that is a struggle. But once again, it's almost like the cure is the art.
Yeah, we do have the tools.
Right.
We
That's
have the
what it
tools.
is.
We
It's
have the
finding
tools to
the
go out.
tools.
Our time is up. We's already over, but I hope that you guys enjoy meeting him, and being able to hear him, and then be inspired by it too. And so, Gevin,
Thank you
Thank
for
you
your
so much.
time.
No,
And come visit the Highline Heritage Museum and see my Bigfoot exhibit. We didn't even get into it. I'm also a collector, which is maybe a hoarder, but no, collector. So anyway, we love this museum. We love that they're here on the South Side. We love Burien, and thank you so much.
no, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Check out his exhibit. We're still going to have that exhibit for a couple more months, so you got time for it. And then we're going to be having an event coming up after the holidays. But we'll give you more details later on. But in the meantime, thank you.
Thank you.
And we're so excited that we did this. So thank you, everyone. Bye.
Our Highline Voices, 106.5 KQWZ LP FM. We envision ourselves sitting at a round table where no one is the leader and stories are heard respectfully, regardless of gender, age, sexual orientation, disabilities, or ethnicity. Our mission is we collect, preserve, and tell the stories of the Highline region and its people. We want to extend our mission outside the walls of the museum. Our Highline Voices represents us all, honoring our past, celebrating our present, and uniting to cultivate our future. This project allows us to reach out to demographics who might be unable to visit the museum. People with disabilities, low-income families, people who don't trust museums, and more. In partnership, we are launching a locally programmed new radio station at the museum, featuring recorded and live Highline's heritage, history, culture, arts, and more. Are you interested in sharing your story? Email director@highlinemuseum.org.